Since the 2018 peace agreement limps along with concerns that a return to a business-as-usual approach, further complicated by a pandemic, could have long-lasting implications on the country's trajectory away from conflict.
In this last quarter, violent incidents have dropped by 64% compared to the previous quarter, but as the dry season approaches, we're preparing ourselves for a possible resurgence of volatility. Several underlying factors have created to a perfect storm for those already facing hardship. There's acute food insecurity that's affecting half of the population. It's driven by displacement from conflict and severe flooding, which is affecting around 1 million people with the loss of livestock and crops. There's a worsening economic situation due to COVID-19, and that's all on top of the existing pervasive poverty.
Shearer cautioned that without significant international pressure, including regional efforts, political will from the domestic stakeholders could wane, highlighting a need for momentum to be urgently injected back into the process.
The transitional security arrangements that are aimed at unifying the security forces are stalled and leaving combatants in training centres often without adequate food or shelter. The dispute over the proposed governorship of Johnson Laloni in Upper Nile, Malakal, the only governor yet to take up office, is being used now to halt the appointment of county commissioners, which are an essential part of the local government. And their absence leaves a local vacuum of power, which makes it difficult to nip in the bud brewing intercommunal violence. Momentum in South Sudan's peace process is linked to the strength of international engagement. However, attention by member states in the Horn is understandably directed elsewhere, contributing to the sense of drift that people are frequently remarking upon. Nevertheless, collectively, we still need to remain focused on South Sudan and guide the peace implementation.
Beyond the political dynamics, the country faces falling oil prices, a lack of financial accountability, and delays in payments to civil servants that further complicates an already desperate humanitarian situation, as the UN warns that parts of the country are on the brink of famine.
2 consecutive years of intense flooding have then made the situation worse. More than 500,000 people in Jonglei and the Greater People Administrative Area and close to 400,000 people in Warrap State have been affected by the compounded effects of flooding and fighting. And on top of that, COVID-19, with its socioeconomic impact, has made life even harder. South Sudan's economy continues to contract, partly as a result of the fall in oil prices. Essential commodity and food prices are increasing in the face of rapidly depreciating exchange rates and subsequent inflation. Overall this year, 7.5 million people in South Sudan, which, let's remember, is more than 60% of the entire country, need humanitarian assistance.
South Sudan gained independence in 2011 but descended into chaos roughly 2.5 years later, following an impasse between President Salva Kiir and his deputy Riek Machar in a country that remains fragile at best. Sherman Brycepe's SABC News, New York.